Hello everyone, my name's Sophie and I am back today to talk to you all about something which is hopefully going to be quite interesting and useful, and it isn't really something that I've seen much already about on YouTube. But today I want to talk to you about whether you should work for the NHS, what it's like, and hopefully answer some questions that some of you may have about working in the NHS. I am a speech and language therapist in the NHS and I have worked for 3 years. I have worked within both acute hospital settings and within community, so some of my answers may be relevant to both of those, so hopefully that will be helpful for those of you who are working in hospitals and those of you who are also working in outpatients or community services. So yeah, I am quite literally hopefully spilling the tea about working in the NHS, what it's like, and being honest about my opinions. So this is in no way related to the organisations that I work with, it's just my opinion and hopefully will be helpful for those of you who are starting to work in the NHS and aren't really sure what it's like. So we all know that the NHS can sometimes get a bit of a bad rep. I love it as a service, it's amazing, and we're so lucky to have a free health service in our country, but obviously there are things that go with being that kind of organisation that can make it challenging, and for those of us who already work in the NHS or have done placements and things, we will know that what some of those sorts of things are. But I thought, let's talk about them, let's discuss what's going on. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it, and yeah, hopefully this is useful for you. So I thought, let's start with some things which can be challenging, because let's end on a positive. So I've written some notes about things that I found more difficult or more challenging about working in the NHS and how those have maybe impacted me. And yeah, so the first one that I have put down is a general healthcare thing, and that is just working in such a challenging environment with quite complicated and unwell people is actually not a very normal thing to do. And I think that when you have been doing it for quite a long time, you get completely desensitized to how odd it is that we work with people who are incredibly unwell. And we see a variety of things that people who don't work in the NHS probably wouldn't see or know, and that's not something that's really talked about, I don't think. That actually it's not normal in your early 20s to be seeing people who are really unwell, people who are dying, people who are having, feeding tubes, breathing tubes, really intense treatments, and I actually don't think that that's really discussed. It's just can be quite upsetting and distressing, and I really don't think that's talked about particularly a lot, because especially if you've worked there for a long time, like I say, you do get desensitized. So that was my first thing. It's challenging, it can be distressing and upsetting, and that's not always discussed or thought about really within your team. I think it's just important to be aware of that we all go through that, so you need to make sure you're speaking to your colleagues and making sure that everyone is okay, because it is really a challenging and abnormal environment to be in at a young age, or whatever age you're going into it, but it's just not a normal environment. The next one is probably the most difficult maybe to manage within the NHS, with it being something that is so specific about how many staff it can have and of which bandings and all those kinds of things. And then that one is there's not enough time or staff to get things done. So it can often feel like, there's just not enough time in the day to get everything done that you need to do. And that is exactly how I felt today. I'm coming to you on a Friday night, just having a week of work, and yeah, that's exactly how I felt pretty much every day this week. Was I wish there was maybe one or two other me's out there who could help, or I wish I just had like another 2 hours that I was getting paid for, that I could do this extra work and see these extra patients, because it can be really difficult, especially if you're kind of working in a referrals based system like speech and language therapy and some other specialties. You aren't like sort of in one place a lot of the time for your day, or like spread out across the hospital maybe, or if you are on one ward, you're not seeing a select number of people, you're spread out, you're seeing a list, sometimes the whole ward, sometimes not the whole ward, and staffing doesn't always reflect the amount that you need to do. So prioritising can be very stressful, and it is something you get used to and it is something you get better at, but you don't, that feeling of wanting to get stuff done and not being able to do that doesn't go away, and that's what can be difficult. And especially with staffing changing a lot, as it does within the NHS, you get a lot of turnover of staff quite often as well, and that can be difficult because you've got that training need also coming into your team, which makes things challenging. So kind of leading into that is just the general stressfulness of being in the NHS. Regardless of where you work, whether it's outpatients, community, hospital, you always will be stressed. It's just one of those things, there will be times where you feel less stressed and you feel supported, but there will be times when you definitely do, and you're not going to be able to do your job, get through your career without being stressed, unless you're like a very specific type of person. But as far as I know, everyone will experience stress at work, and it's just learning to deal with that and how you manage that. That can be challenging. So I'm sure if you are thinking about doing it, you already know that, but it's just worth throwing it out there. Sometimes, because it's quite a big organisation, it can feel like you're not being necessarily like recognised for the work you're doing, because a lot of the time it's just expected that you maybe work overtime, or you work more than you should be doing, or you don't have a break some days, and that's just expected for you to do that, which is difficult. And whilst a lot of the time people will be like, you can only do what you can do, again, that doesn't take away that stress and that guilt sometimes that you can feel, which is, doesn't really, it does get a bit easier because I think you learn how to deal with it, but it doesn't go away. But that's healthcare. Pay is another one that's big. And yeah, generally across the board, healthcare professionals, regardless of what you do, what your role is, are not paid enough for what they do. And you're also sometimes not paid for overtime. Like my job, I don't get paid if I work overtime. That's just not how it works, because I'm just expected to not. And if I have to, then that's kind of expected that I do that extra work. So you aren't always paid or recognised for going above and beyond, basically. There aren't a lot of like free benefits you get with the NHS. There are some things, don't get me wrong, like you can get like your blue light discount card and that kind of thing, although I think you do have to pay for that, I'm not actually sure. Some trusts have gyms on site, some don't, and some will have some free wellbeing stuff, some don't. It's really varied between which trusts you go to, but there aren't like a lot of free things you can get, I won't lie. I mean, I am really excited because in my current trust we get free milk in the kitchen, and that is like amazing. I've never had that before. In my previous job I did not get access to anything really free, food or drink wise, and in this new job we all like kind of contribute to tea and coffee and stuff like that in the office, but you can get free milk, which is like wild to me. But I feel like for those of you who maybe work privately or work in other companies or don't work in the NHS and are just interested, you may be like, whoa, like what? Because I know some of my friends who work in the private sector and they are literally like getting all this free stuff all the time. It's not a place to get free stuff, which is fine because, we all pay for it in our tax. However, it's not that kind of vibe. Just a couple more and then we can get on to the positives. So the next one is opportunities to learn and do training courses are there, but it can be quite difficult to get that paid for. So the way that it works is that each year each team has to kind of apply for like budget for training that they're going to do within that financial year, and then that has to get either approved or denied, I guess. And then that money is then allocated to courses that you can go on throughout the year. But obviously that money sort of budget is not infinite, so a lot of the time there will be cases where you can't do certain things that you may want to do to help your development, and that's difficult. You can obviously do it if you pay for it yourself, but a lot of training courses are like a couple of £100, and I don't know about you, but I don't have a couple of £100 hanging around. So there's that. And then this one doesn't quite apply to me quite so much, but generally is an NHS thing, is the hours. I'm quite lucky that in my job I work 8 till 4 every day, give or take a bit at the end, maybe if I'm working over until 5 or something, but that's my core hours. I don't work like shifts, but my boyfriend's a junior doctor, and I know that his shifts are like, some days short, some days long, some days nights, sometimes weekends, blah blah blah, and that can also be challenging. So there's also something to bear in mind if that's not something you are aware of, that depending on your profession, you may have to work weekends, you may have to work nights, on call, long days, sometimes 13-14 hours in a go. That's unfortunately also part of it. But like I say, being a speech and language therapist, the only thing sometimes you have to do is work weekends, and that's usually kind of it, and sometimes bank holidays. Right, I'm gonna have a little drink. I don't know about you guys who are speech therapists, but I actually find it really difficult to swallow in front of people, and I actually think if I did a swallow assessment on someone like I do at work, I would really struggle. Anyway, that's by the by. So now into the positives. So hopefully this will bring things back. We all know there are challenges, so now let's think about why we do want to work for the NHS, because I do, and I do like my job, and all of those things aside, I still want to work in the NHS. So why is that? Let's have a look. So the first one that I actually really enjoy, and I think it does depend on your job and your specific trust that you work in, but that is working as part of a big team, and like the sense of camaraderie that you get doing that, working in a multidisciplinary team. You're all kind of working towards a goal of looking after your patient and making them safe to go home, or if you're in community, just improving their lifestyle or whatever it is. And so that is the big positive for me. Like, there is nothing like walking in the morning when everyone else is walking in for their shift and you're walking in together, just like kind of, I don't know, very dramatic, like some sort of film. Very cool. And I just love it. Like, it's just like this sensation of like you all going in and about to do something great and positive vibes. It doesn't take long for that to change, but that's before 8 o'clock when I'm walking in. Positive. You do, kind of building on from that, you work with such a wide variety of people, lots of different professions, lots of different backgrounds, skill sets, experiences, and that is great. Like, I can't tell you how much that will help you get through all of those negatives, having a brilliant team. And if you don't have that in the trust that you're in, then look for another trust, because I tell you that it is there, and it is something that I didn't have so much in my first job, but I do have now, that multidisciplinary team working. It is just next level. It's great, you know, and it's not the same between everyone also within your trust. Like, there will be some members of the team who you don't gel with, but there will be members of the team that make your day when you see them. And if you do sessions with them or just have a chat to them in the corridor, 10 out of 10. And I'm very lucky to have a very good speech and language therapy team as well, and that also helps. The laughter and, you know, positivity gets you through the day. I've also put here opportunity to learn in a positive thing, because whilst the budgeting can be difficult, at least within my team and my team before actually, there is encouragement for you to book yourself onto courses and look for training opportunities and improve your learning. So I would just say that is also, it is a thing, it's limited, the amount that you can do. You can do training and things, but the amount you can do is limited because of the financial boundaries. But, you know, here we are. Yeah, I've already said, if you've got a great team, it's basically like having a big family at work. Everyone gets you through the week, the day, makes you tea, makes you coffee, whatever. Nothing like it. Working with patients, like, there's just so much satisfaction that you can get from helping a patient or client and community meet their goals and do what they want to do or improve their lifestyle. And like, that is just like nothing else. It's just incredibly positive and satisfying, and yeah, a lot of job satisfaction is part of working in the NHS, like, you know, and healthcare in general, not just the NHS, it can be private too, but yeah, so there's that. The other one, yeah, is spending time with your patients. You can learn so much from your patients, about yourself and about other people, about your work, your style. I like getting feedback. We've recently started doing like patient experience questionnaires at work, which I've written, and I just love reading the feedback. Obviously, you know, you don't really want to read negative feedback, but actually that does help you improve as a service. So just getting feedback and speaking to your patients, learning about them, learning about their backgrounds, having a bit of a laugh while you're doing your job with your patients when you can is just great. I've also put challenging environment down as a positive, because some people, actually working within that busy and challenging environment builds on that satisfaction and achievement. And I would say that that's why I like working in a hospital over community, because it's a different kind of pressure and a different kind of stress. And I find that the stress and pressure that I have working in a hospital actually like spurs me on and motivates me to get stuff done. And yeah, I think some personality types just fit that, and some personality types might fit the community pressure and stress a bit more. And they're completely different vibes, but the challenging environment and stressfulness does motivate me. So that is also a positive for me. It makes me get stuff done, and it pushes me out of my comfort zone and to improve. So also a positive, I would say. And the last one is like just a little bit of an extra. I think like sometimes if you tell people you work within the NHS, like there is a bit of a kudos around it. Like I think more in certain professions than others, probably less so in my job, but yeah, there is a bit of like, oh wow, you know, you work for the NHS. It's still got that for a lot of people, not everyone, because there are some more critical people regarding the NHS, but generally it's still got that respect. And I think if you're looking for a job with a lot of job satisfaction and, you know, working with people, helping people achieve their goals and learning and being busy, then it is a great organisation to work for, and I would definitely recommend it. So whilst I started off with lots of negatives, I hope that I've ended on a bit of a positive note to help motivate those of you who may want to work within the NHS and help you understand that it is not all bad. Like, it does get bad rep, bad press, it does. And there are things about it that do need to change and that are difficult, but there are things about it that I love and that other people love, and that is why we all still work there and haven't all left. And I hope that those of you who are considering working in the NHS do, and you know, if it's not right for you, it's not right for you, but for those of you who it is, I hope that you enjoy the process. And yeah. So I hope that has been useful. It's a lot of me talking, a lot of rant. It's Friday evening. I'm not sure how much of that made sense, but I hope that it was good and I hope it was useful. And if you have any questions or want to know anything else about what it's like to work in the NHS, then please do ask. Drop me a message, drop me a comment down below. If you enjoyed, please like the video. Please let me know that if you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you would like to hear more, and send over some suggestions if you have any ideas of what you would like me to talk about. NHS, speech therapy, communication, swallowing, dysphagia related. Let me know and I'll be more than happy to do that for you. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend. It's the bank holiday weekend when I'm putting this out, so I hope that you have an amazing time if you're off work, and if you're at work, I hope that it's good for you as well. So yeah, that's everything. Yeah, let me know if you have any feedback and I will see you next time. Bye everyone.